How's it going, everybody? Star Wars Talk here. Today we have a new piece for the Acolyte, but it's not a trailer so much as it is a conversation apparently between both Dave Filoni and Leslye Headland. So this is probably going to be pretty controversial for many. I'm sure she's going to say some things that people do not want to hear, but I haven't seen this yet, so I'm looking forward to watching it and just sharing my reaction and thoughts with you guys. So let's just get right into it.
Two directors talk about Star Wars.
That sounds good.
That does
Let's
sound
do
good.
that. Actually
Let's do
sounds
it.
really good.
Tell me about the Acolyte.
I'm sorry, just you asking me that question is making me cry.
Is it? That's all right.
Yeah.
It is a big deal to a lot of people. It affects people in different ways, and this is your story, so.
What I was interested in examining were the Sith. The master-apprentice dynamic. If the apprentice is craving the master's power, then at some point
There'll
he
be nothing
must
like this
recruit
ever again.
his apprentice
There
to
just never will
overthrow
be.
the master,
Yeah.
and that is the Acolyte.
Right.
Who trained you?
You don't wake up thinking you're evil or that you're the bad
Sure.
guy, as explored by George and Anakin.
Yeah, I don't think Anakin ever thinks he becomes evil.
I
in
agree,
life,
and I
you
think
know.
a lot of the characters in the Acolyte have to convince themselves that they are
Doing the right thing.
they're doing the right thing.
This is the Clone Wars.
Yeah, no kidding.
Ahsoka was such an interesting character to me.
When we started, we had it very much
Dang,
a shell
man.
shock moment for her that she was out of her depth. And I'll never forget it. George watching it and saying, "You guys are taking this a bit too seriously." He went on to explain that, like, even at a young age, she's not out of her depth for any of this.
I had a similar experience with the character Jackie. There was a note from somebody that was, wouldn't she be scared on her first mission? And I remember you telling me about that story.
Jedi training has to be
I
valuable.
gotta pause this for
It
2
prepares
seconds.
them for the
I just want to say, like, this is why I know, like, a lot of people say, why is Dave, like, heading all of this stuff? Why is he, like, the top part of it all? But it's like, he's, like, the head of creatives right now at Lucasfilm. And that's part of the reason right there is I think Disney finally did understand, like, a big part of the fan base does love the prequels, does love the original trilogy, probably, like, 90%. And, you know, we want things as close to what George would want for Star Wars. And we weren't getting that for a really long time, so to hear Dave actually giving advice to other directors that came from George himself is really, really cool to hear.
galaxy.
I think it's important for Star Wars.
Do or do not.
Do or do not, there's no try. That's like, if you're trying, you're not actually doing it.
I had to do that with Acolyte for sure. My agreement with myself was whenever it overwhelms you that you're doing your dream, you just have to do it. Honestly, the times that I felt the most worried was not the special effects, the fighting choreography. It was the emotional stuff.
These things that George understood about filmmaking, understood about iconography, are things that we still try to tap into.
It's the Western. It's the samurai film. It has to feel elevated, but it also has to feel like Star Wars. Basically, what George created, it's the North Star.
What are you?
Dude, finally, we have seen like little to no lightsabers in any of these trailers, aside from the one scene with a bunch of Jedi obviously fighting the one Sith. But that was a really cool piece right there with the, I thought it was 2 Jedi characters going at it. But I'm just going to play this in the background while we talk a little bit. Some good things I heard was, you know, Dave really is heading this stuff, and he's really giving people advice, the other directors advice that George gave him when he was younger. So that is really, really cool to see. And he's like, you know, you're taking it too serious. If you're trying, then you're not really doing. So I think that's really important advice for a lot of Star Wars directors to have, from essentially George himself, but really from Dave at this point. One thing I don't really agree with right now is, or I don't understand, is why the budget for this show is like, I think it's the highest budget out of any Star Wars show. Something that kind of bugs me is the fact that the, you know, Obi-Wan show had one of the lowest budgets out of any of the shows, and it just upset me a little bit because those are such big characters in Star Wars, and obviously some of my favorite characters, and I know a lot of your favorite characters. And it's like, we saw Darth Vader come back, and why is it getting the lowest budget? And you could kind of tell it was low budget, in my opinion. So it just kind of sucked. This has one of the biggest budgets, like I said, and obviously you can tell they have been rolling trailers out like every single day. There's stuff all over the place for this show. So I'm assuming what they think is they have an amazing product here and that they are so excited to show it. And, you know, I'm excited to see it. So if they really think it's that amazing, then I'm excited to see it. But as we get a little closer, like, I am a little concerned about some of the things, but The characters are growing on me a little more. And I'd say one big thing I've had issues with in the past with Disney stuff, especially with the sequel trilogy, is not knowing the characters at all beforehand. Just going into it like, oh, who are these people? And then, by the end of it, not really loving all of them. Obviously, we had some cool characters in it. Like Kylo's always gonna be one of those cool characters for me. But enough of that. Back to the trailer. I think there are some cool stuff in here that we get to see that's a little different from the other trailers. I think it's cool that they showed some George Star Wars, some behind the scenes like this is really cool. Um, it warms my heart to see that they're trying to do things more like George would maybe want them. I don't think it's coming into fruition because I think that what George had wasn't a feeling. It wasn't an emotion. It was just George. I mean, that's really all you can say. It was George. It was from his brain, and it was his baby. So I'm looking forward to the show. At least I'm excited to kind of see what it's all about, and I'm excited to kind of watch it and just do some reviews with you guys. But let me know what you guys think about the trailer down below, or the conversation, I guess. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know, and may the force be with you. See you in the next one.